This is Eric Rutan of Cannibal Corpse. You are listening to the Scars and Guitars podcast with Andrew McKay Smith.
G'day everybody, welcome to the show. I've got a conversation with Donita Sparks from L7 to share with you. Now, the catalyst for the chat is due to an Australian tour which is happening across December 2023. If you are local, check gig guides for a show near you. Now, in this chat, we discuss the unique qualities of Donita's guitar tone and her distinctive groove. We'll revisit the early days, her impressions of Nirvana's Nevermind, the Prodigy's cover of Fuel My Fire, and the band's appearance on the Oliver Stone movie, the soundtrack to the Oliver Stone movie Natural Born Killers, reflecting on the 30th anniversary of the appearance at the Reading Festival. I call it Donington, but it's Readington. It's Readington. There you go. We discussed that episode's place in the band's history. We go into some social and political issues, as long-time listeners to the show will know, but I like to have those conversations with the musicians. All right, so here she is, Donita Sparks. How have the calls been going? Have you enjoyed them?
Yeah, they've been good. Last one was a little rough, but we got through it. It was good.
What happened?
Oh, no, just, it was fine. It was good. Nothing horrible.
Did you?
I think he may have been a little nervous, but I'm not sure. I make people nervous sometimes, and then
really? Oh, okay.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah. Sometimes.
I think you're lovely. I've listened to your interviews and I've loved your music for years, by the way. So there you go. Maybe I'm just looking forward to it,
Yeah. I think. Yeah. I don't think he was. Anyway, whatever. He was great.
You've been doing this as long as anybody that I've spoken to, at least anyway. What apart from the technology, how do you think it's different conducting interviews between the early 90s and now?
I think in the early 90s, people were out to provoke me and provoke us and really, I don't know, tick us, get us ticked off, or they were just more confrontational in a way, especially the British ones were god awful. But, because a lot of them would be nice during the interview and then you'd read the piece and it was just brutal. So, and that happened in the US sometimes too, but I would say now we're at a status where it's like, if you want to interview us, you're doing it because you like us. And it's not just an assignment for, I think I sense a bit of respect from the people who interview us. And that maybe is a little bit different than back in the day.
Yeah, I understand your perspective on that, actually. I can't understand why people interview people in this, I'm talking about right now, in this day and age, that they don't like and whose music they don't enjoy. It defeats the purpose.
Yeah, and, back in the day, the press had such power that, it would be like, hey, so we want to ride on your bus for 2 weeks and, observe you. And it's just like, what? And then they would write whatever the fuck they wanted. And so I think because of outlets like podcasts and even though there's been a sad decline in print, there's been a boom in more independent thinkers and people who are doing it for the love of it instead of hitting deadlines or, getting the inside scoop on Oasis, the brothers fighting or whatever. You know what I mean? It's kind of, it's people who want to talk about music and your career and stuff like that.
Yeah, I hear you. Look, on that point, has Australia been a solid territory for you over the decades?
It has. I've never known, I don't know our record sales. I don't know, I don't know a lot of that stuff. I believe that Australia has always been a country that really likes rock and roll and very kind of, they've got really cool like underground bands and like very kind of cerebral bands, and yet they've also got a lot of meat and potatoes rock and roll. So I like that a lot. That there's a good range of rock music going on down there, and an appreciation of that.
Yeah. The first and only time I've actually seen you girls was on the Alternative Nation Festival in 1995. Can you remember
that? Yes. And we sang with Lou Reed.
Yes.
Were you there for that?
I remember you were on the bill with Lou Reed, but I can't remember that specifically. No, sorry, but I just remember you were on the bill with him. Yeah.
Yeah. Were there 2 Alternative Nation shows in different cities, or
3? There was Sydney, Melbourne, and Brisbane. Yeah.
Because I remember on one of them we sang. We met Lou Reed backstage, and I was complimenting him on his record New Sensations. And he really liked that because I don't think he got many compliments on that album. And I love that album. And he said, oh, well, maybe you can sing with me on I Love You, Suzanne tonight. And so we ended up singing back up on I Love You, Suzanne. And yet I started singing all the leads. And he just kind of looked at me like you're stepping on my lines, But
yeah.
I just knew all the lyrics, and so I was just. But it was kind of a mind-blowing experience.
He didn't have a good tour that tour. He had mud thrown at him and was yelled at. He was probably on the wrong festival, to be honest.
Yeah, and I think he was when he was playing, the band on the next stage was like doing a line check. So, and he could hear that, and I don't know if the audience could hear it, but he could hear it, and that I don't think he was used to that, and he didn't like that.
Yeah, I had a photo album from some publication back then. It might have been Juice Magazine or whatever it was, Australian edition of Rolling Stone. But there were quite a few photos of you and Roddy from Faith No More hanging around together. So did you strike up a bit of a friendship with the Faith No More guys then?
Well, we toured with Faith No More in Europe in the November of 1992. So we were friends with them from that tour, but even before that, because, Faith No More was also from the punk scene. Yeah. They were punk rockers doing hard rock, kind of like what we were doing. And we shared the same manager. So we were friends, and I think Jennifer kind of grew up with Roddy in LA. So they were both punk rockers on the scene. So yeah, we go back with them.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah. Your guitar tone, I've always admired it. It's something that I've actually tried to mimic a bit. So I've got to hand it to you for that. You've been an influence. And it reminds me a little bit of Tom Warrior from Celtic Frost, because that's a heavy metal pedal that he uses there too. Yours is more punkified, though. It's a more punky and crusty version of his guitar tone. That's my take on it anyway. But is your guitar tone, it's very distinct, though. That's the key point that I want to make in it amongst there. Did you have to develop that, or is that something you had since almost day one?
Well, it's interesting that you say that, because I feel like my guitar tone has changed over the years, because I refused to play out of a Marshall back in the day because I thought it was cliche. Yep. So I would try to make a distorted sound out of any kind of dumbass rigged thing. Like I had a Music Man with a heavy metal pedal, and then I had a bass man with a heavy metal pedal. So anyway, I had heavy metal pedals for a long time, which I liked very much. And then I finally got a JCM 800 Marshall, and it was just like, oh, this is what I should have sounded like the whole time. So Susie's always been a Marshall gal. I finally caved and got a Marshall. But now we are both playing Black Stars, and Black Stars sound amazing. And we've got these new models called the St. James, and I think they're 6 pounds each. And we're bringing them with us on the road. So we're getting what we got out of the Marshalls through these black stars now. So that's cool. And for Susie to switch from a Marshall to a black star is like huge. Because it's just like, sure, I'll try it, but Susie like making that commitment, because Susie cares more about gear and tone maybe than I do. I'll just give me some distortion. I'll make it work, but Susie really needs to get the perfect feedback and she's very particular. But thank you for that compliment. I am not familiar with the guitar player that you mentioned, but I'll check that out.
Yeah, well, Celtic Frost. When you have a listen, some of the mid-period stuff, sort of Vanity Nemesis, 1990, that sort of thing. I think you'll hear it, but it does lead into another question, which is that because you've got a distinctive tone. To me, that's a sign of an accomplished guitarist. So, who are you inspired by?
Oh man, well, it's interesting because probably for my style of rhythm, it's the Ramones all the way, downstroke, eighth notes. Bar chords, it's like once I learned bar chords, I was like, that's it. I can play the Ramones. And my guitar lessons stopped. I was just like, the rest, I'll just fucking fake my way through it. And which is sort of what I've done ever since. But I think so that's kind of my rhythm. I'm pretty Ramone style. Even though we have we have a few more tricks than the Ramones had songwriting wise, as far as, we play some pop stuff, whatever, but it's usually downstroke bar chords. But my lead playing, I love simplistic, catchy stuff. I like a lot of half steps, in my rhythm playing too. I like a lot of half steps, but I like, guitarists I love, I can't really play but I maybe I do a deconstructed version of them. I love Dick Dale. I love his Middle Eastern influence, King of the Surf guitar. I love Scotty Moore, who's Elvis's guitar player. Yeah. I really like that era of guitar lead playing, 50s and 60s. I can hear that.
Yeah, now that you mentioned it, I can hear it. Yeah, I didn't notice it until you said it. Yeah.
Yeah, Susie likes more, when she plays leads, she's more blues influenced, and I'm a bit more surf, rockabilly influenced.
Yeah. I wish the guitar magazines when I was a young fella, so I'm 45, so right at that sweet spot when L7 were coming through, they did more exposés on your guitar technique and the way in which you approached it, because I was too busy doing all of the shredders and all the rest of it. And when you're 14, you can't do any of that shit. But you can sit down and you can put on a Venom album, or you could put on an L7 album, and you could play along to some of those riffs, and then you could reach for some of the leads. So did I just miss the Guitar World publications that had you as a feature, or are they yet to sort of contact you and reach into your mind and say, hey, share with the kids exactly how this is done?
Very few people have done that. And it's interesting that you say that, because I've just been approached. Well, I was listed in Rolling Stone as an influential guitar player just very recently, which is amazing.
Right. Yeah.
And, I don't know if I agree with my placement on that list. I'm ranked higher than my hero, Dick Dale, which to me is kind of funny, but but maybe it's just, I don't know how they make these lists, but anyway, I had an interview, for a guitar magazine just last week, and I had made notes like, okay, this person wants to speak with me about my tone and my playing, and I was really trying to figure out what does make me unique, what, and I came up with some really cool stuff, I thought, and then our interview, he informed me that he was in his car running errands, and I was just like, it was a Zoom call, but I was like, wait, what are you doing? And he's like, oh, I'm running errands. I'm like, you're in your car right now and you're going to interview me. And it was just so bizarre, because it's like, wow, finally someone wants to speak with me about my guitar playing. And he's like, just off running errands in his car. And I was like, we're going to have to reschedule this, man. This is, I just took it like, wow, this is really something. So anyway, that was just a funny little anecdote I wanted to throw into to you. But yeah, over the years, I have been trying to deconstruct my playing, and I never thought it was nothing much. But now when I really look back on it, it's like, hey, it is pretty unique, and this is why. And I've kind of cracked my own code a little bit. So.
I'll tell you why you make the list is because as soon as you hear one riff that you play, it's you. You can say it's Donita. You can hear that. So that's why I think you make those lists, and why I think it's important for young people or anybody that's beginning on the guitar to pick their guitar hero early. And it's not about copying. It's about reaching for things that give you a lot of confidence to then go further. And you and Mantis from Venom, you played that role for me. I remembered that because and Ernie C from Body Count too, because you could actually play it. So as a means of being able to play it, I've been a musician now for 30 years or thereabouts, and because that happened very early on, then I switched to bass fairly early on too. But it gave me confidence. It gave me a lot of confidence, and that's the key point that I wanted to relate to you.
Totally. You don't have to be a virtuoso to be in a band. You can start a band without even knowing how to play. If you just find some people who you can play along with, that's, like I said, that's what the Ramones were for me. And that's what a lot of American and British garage bands were for me. You just, it's not about the virtuoso playing, even though those guys who could, and gals who can play like that, that's great. But sometimes a simple hook, Louie Louie is 3 chords.
Yeah.
Shit list is 3 fucking chords.
Right,
whole song. So it's there's nothing wrong with that either. There's nothing wrong with a simple 3-chord song, and there's nothing wrong with a complicated song like Wargasm, which is pert near math rock, so. And I like both, so long as it's catchy, Yeah,
no, I agree with you. Yeah, on that point, absolutely. You heard Nevermind before almost anybody else did, and you've been quoted by Dave Grohl as saying very early on, again, when the guys were recording it, this is going to be huge. So obviously the album made an impression on you, or the songs, I should say, because you hadn't quite heard the album yet. The band hadn't finished it yet, but you were almost credited as the first person to identify that album was going to be huge. What are your memories of that era?
Well, I think everybody knew Nirvana was going to be huge just because Bleach, they were huge in the underground. There was a big bidding war over Nirvana, and they were our friends, and we kind of saw the whole thing come down, and, so they were already great. But then from Bleach to Nevermind, they were incorporating more pop and more melody, even more so than Bleach. Bleach was a bit harder and more aggressive, but Nevermind, was getting into some unexplored territory, I think, for them. And, we had a demo tape of their stuff. It was pre them recording with Butch Vig, and the songs were there. You know what I mean? It was just this is going to be fucking huge. But everybody thought that. I don't know why Dave remembers me saying that, but I'm sure I did say it to those guys, you guys, this is going to be fucking huge. And it was just kind of get ready, man, because this is undeniably great. And you guys are already, on the map. So, but I think it was, everybody knew that was a great record to come,
Yeah. There are similarities between Nevermind and Bricks Are Heavy but just as a young fella listening to it, I go, okay, I think I can understand why the Butch Vig thing, because he just puts that, and it's not that they sound the same. It's just that the execution is very similar in that the guitar just cuts right through. So did you guys choose Butch to work? Was it your selection, so to speak, or did the record company ask you guys to work with him?
The record company, we were on Slash Records, which was kind of under the umbrella of Warner Brothers and Polygram and all that stuff. But Slash was an independent record label out of LA who just had that umbrella distribution, So they were punk rockers and they were art punks and we were art punks. And so they let us do whatever the hell we wanted, which was great. And Nirvana was about to work with Butch, and then they were working with Butch, and we were like, oh, let's try Butch. And he turned out to be the perfect person because he is very unpretentious, and he's not a snob. He's not arrogant. He's a guy from the Midwest. He's not from LA. And, he loves music and he loves pop elements. And I think he encouraged Nirvana and L7 to try out these pop ideas that we had that I know I was a little afraid to try because I was afraid, I didn't want to be considered soft. L7 had to be really tough cookies. And I was a little afraid to throw in some of my love of pop stuff, but Butch was like, no, do it. And I heard what Nirvana was doing. I was like, oh, well, they're doing it. And the Pixies are doing it. And the Breeders are, and it was just kind of like, fuck it. I'm going to throw in this backing vocal. I'm going to throw in this poppy lead. And that, I think that he was a confidence builder. He wasn't coming up with the pop ideas per se, but he was encouraging us to go with our gut on some magical sprinkles. And that's what I thought he really brought to the record.
He did such a great job with you, by the way, on that album. That album's a classic, is a modern day classic. Have you had the opportunity to work with him again?
No, but we see each other around LA. And no, I think I was in a documentary about Smart Studios, which is where we recorded with Butch in Madison, Wisconsin, and where a lot of other bands recorded. So I was in that documentary. Butch, was he in our documentary? I think he may have been in our documentary. We've just been kind of back and forth like that. We see each other socially every now and then, and I go to garbage shows, and we've seen each other around.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah. Hey, Oliver Stone, did he contact you personally to contribute to the soundtrack of Natural Born Killers?
His producer, Jane, what's her last name? Jane Hampshire, contacted us. She was the L7 fan, and she had soundtrack ideas for Oliver Stone for that movie. And she's the one who brought Trent Reznor in, and she was a rock fan, and she was a producer.
Gotcha.
So she played Shitless for Oliver. He's like, yes, absolutely. And what's interesting is that they shot that scene before we had even agreed to let them use it. And Juliette Lewis is singing Shitless in it. So there's no way. I mean, it would have been so costly for them not to use that song, and we could have really had them by the short and curlies and extorted money out of them to, but we were like, fuck it, let them use Shitless, and Juliet did such a great job in that scene, and it's associated with that film for quite a few fans. So that's cool. Even though I am not a fan of violence, a lot of people really dig it. And so it really helped catapult Shitlist is one of our most famous songs. It's never been on the radio, but it's one of our biggest songs.
It was on the radio down here, I can assure you. That's where I first.
Oh, there you go.
Triple J used to play it late at night. Yeah.
Oh, that's great. No, they wouldn't play it in the U.S. You can't say shit on the radio, I don't think, anymore. Yeah.
Hey, how did you feel when Jennifer joined Moby's band?
Jennifer did not join Moby's band.
Oh, okay. There you go.
There you go.
You find. Okay.
No, I would have been furious.
That's what I thought. Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah. No. You got a couple people confused. A bass player named Greta.
Yeah, I know she did, but there's a quote online from The Guardian of all places that attributes Jennifer joining Moby's band. So there you go.
No, I don't think so.
Hang on, whilst I'm talking to you, I know I got it. I didn't make it up, but I'll find it and I'll Where are we? Joining Novy's band. Founding bassist Jennifer Finch has left to join Moby. 12th of April, year 2000. Bad Girls Live Forever. Oh, well, there we go. Just as though people out there don't think I'm full of shit and just making things up. But
no, that's not. No, you know what? You can't believe everything you read. No, she did not leave to join Moby, and she was never in Moby. Greta Brinkman, who played bass, she played half the bass on The Beauty Process. I played the other half of the bass on The Beauty Process. She then joined Moby and had a great career with Moby for a few years.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Well, the journalist, who's the journalist? Dave Simpson. There you go. But it's 20 years ago. Yeah, wires crossed. Yeah. The things you read, and I know enough about you as a band, and I know enough about what's come out about Moby. This sort of thing, you guys would have been tuned into that sort of shit years ago and would have said no.
Yeah, no, that's not. No, it was Greta Brinkman who joined Moby.
Yeah, gotcha. Yeah. Well, you're right.
Greta was never an official member of L7. She was hired to play bass on The Beauty Process because Jennifer had quit and we were making a record. And so Greta came in to play, and I played the simpler stuff on the bass. She played the more, she's playing more lines.
The Steve Harris stuff.
Yeah.
There you go. Something I know for a fact did happen because I had the album, The Fat of the Land. It was one of the biggest albums of the 1990s, and there you were right at the end of it. Okay, so what went on there? I thought it was really unusual to have a song that I already knew. Fuel My Fire, I'm talking about, just for people listening. This is going to go live. I'm going to post this later on. They're not live, by the way, just as a okay. But what are your thoughts on that now? Did you like that version of the Prodigy's cover of Fuel My Fire?
Oh, I loved their version. We had no idea. We were in France, and a French friend of ours who worked for Canal Plus came in and he said, "Have you heard the Prodigy?" And we were like, "What?" He's like, the band, the Prodigy. Have you heard the Prodigy? They do Fuel My Fire. And I thought he was going to play us a live version of them maybe covering Fuel My Fire. And he put on their actual Fat of the Land cassette, and it was on there. And we were just like, we were in our dressing room and we were blown away. It was so flattering. And it was such a huge compliment to be, we were kind of starting to wane, I suppose, in our career a little bit. And to have that kind of shot in the arm was really amazing and great. And I don't know if you know the backstory of Fuel My Fire, but
go for it. Yeah.
Well, I wrote Fuel My Fire, and the chord changes in the chorus I had accidentally lifted from the Cosmic Psychos song Lost Cause.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So the Cosmic Psychos, you know who they are. They're an Australian band.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
And they had a song, "She's a Lost Cause, she's a lost cause." And I accidentally lifted their chord change.
Yeah.
"People like you just fuel my fire." And so, but I lifted it but I wrote other parts. I had a bridge that was different. I had my verses were different, but that chorus, I was like, I called up the guys from Cosmic Psychos and I said, "You guys, I lifted your chorus by accident, but I love it. Would you mind if we, split the writer's credit and the publishing? And would you mind if we did it?" And they were like, "No, go for it. So when the Prodigy sold a gazillion records, we all got a cut of that. So the guys from the Cosmic Psychos and L7 all shared in the wealth of that. And, I consider that a lesson for all. Yeah. It's like, if you realize it, cop to it, ask permission, and share the wealth. And that was that worked out well because the Cosmic Psychos were friends of ours, and we had played with them and everything. And it was an accident. I lifted their chorus, but it turned out great for everybody.
Yeah, no, I agree with you on that one. There's not enough deontological philosophy imbued within the musicians ever, really, when it comes down to it. Musicians seem to have been happy to throw each other under the bus, but there's a good news story. They're not all bad news stories. So there you go.
There you go. Yeah.
There you go. Yeah. Look, the it's impossible to Google L7 or your name and not this performance from 1992 at Donington come up. At this point in time, do you consider it, when I say a worthy episode, is it just a footnote, or is it something that, as I say, you type it, you Google it and it comes up? I'm talking about Tampongate, of course, people can look it up. But do you feel like as though it's just turned into its own thing, or do you think it's actually a worthy footnote in the band's history?
Well, first of all, it was at Reading, not Donington. I don't think we've ever played Donington.
Yeah.
But, after I first did it, I was like, oh man, I don't know, but, because it was very, it was funny and feminist at the same time. We were being pelted with mud, and it was a shitty show. We thought it was going to help launch us to a bigger place, and it didn't. And it was just kind of it was a disappointing appearance. Not that we played shitty or anything, but we got pelted with mud the entire time. And it's a very tough show. But now I embrace it a lot more. It's, young women are doing all kinds of tampon performance art and making all kinds of tampon art. And I feel that, I can take some credit for empowering young women. Now there's they're offering free tampons in bathrooms in the United States and stuff like that. So I think it's, I'll take it. I'll take the,
yeah. There you go. Oh, sometimes look, there's these things that are out there that bands get associated with that aren't to do with the music specifically. So Ozzy bit the head off a bat. You talk to any garden variety person out there, they go, Ozzy, he's the bloke who snorted ants or bit the head off a bat. There's the Van Halen forbidding the brown M&Ms and Keith Richards snorting his father's ashes. There's way more out there. I just think that's your entry in the great book of that sort of stuff. That's all. That's
right. And no animals were hurt in my performance art piece. So I'm happy about that.
Plenty of animals in the crowd, though, from the sounds of things. They gave you a really rough time.
They gave us a rough time. They threw mud at Mudhoney as well. We weren't the only ones, but it's weird. Like being women and women in rock, your mind does go to, why are these guys pelting mud at us like so aggressively? Like it was they weren't tossing mud, they were like throwing like baseball pitches at us with these clumps of mud. And it was, if you're a woman or if you're a minority or something, your mind can't help but wander into, why are they being so aggressive towards us? Even though they were doing it to Mudhoney too, but it did cross our minds like, wow, is this like a big show of stay in your place, like misogyny? Your mind does go there. So They threw mud, I threw blood. So take that, motherfuckers. And that's how it rolls.
I'm surprised people have the balls to do it. I loved you guys, but I would have been terrified of trying to piss you off in that way back in those days. Even now, to be honest with you. So yeah.
we were terrified. I mean, it's like half the crowd loved us and were cheering us on. And then there were these like soccer hooligans throwing mud at us.
Yeah.
And, I don't care how much you say like, oh no, that's what they do over there. It's like, hey man, when it's happening to you, it's like, you can't help but take it personally. And you can't help but take it socially and culturally either. So, I got performance art on their ass, and that's and now it's it's up there with Ozzy and Keith and all those guys.
An appropriate response given the context. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Look, something else. The band started Rock for Choice with the Feminist Majority Foundation in 1991. God, I hope that factoid's correct, but that's what I found. And questioning then amongst all of that, that was 1991. Okay, so it's 32 years ago now. Would you still describe yourself as a feminist in the same way you were back then?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I was a feminist at 5 years old, so I grew up with women's lib, as it was called back then. And my mother was a feminist. My father's a feminist. So, I've got 3 older sisters. So it was constant battle with school boards and all kinds of crap in my family. So, yes, for sure. And I'm very proud of it. And I think it has affected some other women. And so that's really great. And I think it's inspired some people too, not only to be politically active, but to give a shit about causes,
Yeah. What's your take on the trans issue?
What about it?
Trans women competing in women's sporting events, sharing prisons, or in some states, I believe that they can go to women's prisons, and the beauty pageant thing. Do you have a view on that at the moment? Or I should really ask, do you want to share your view? Or if you don't, no dramas. I just thought I'd ask the question.
I support trans people. The sports thing, I don't know enough about it. So I don't think I'm a person to speak about that. So yeah, I don't want to step in it with that one, because I plead ignorance to that particular topic of trans competing with females in sports. So I don't know enough about it. Other than that, I am very pro-trans, and I know a lot of people eye roll these young people for pronouns and things. I think I roll it too, but I think it's fucking great. And I think that that's what young people are supposed to do, is to be obnoxiously correct. And that's how things change, and whether it's, the socialists or the beatniks or the punks or whatever, it's like, or the feminists or the civil rights people, it's, yeah, be obnoxious until you win. And that is, so I'm very pro confusing pronouns.
Gotcha. Do you think we're a society, I'm talking about the Western Hemisphere, because we both come from the Western Hemisphere, the Anglosphere, if you like. Do you think we're moving forward? Do you think we're progressing?
I don't know. I mean, I thought we were progressing with women's issues in the U.S., and the Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade. But the populace does not feel the same way. So there are creeps in control everywhere who are trying to stop compassion, diversity, understanding, and intelligence, and that's what's happening right now. And that's happened throughout history. So, but, yeah, I don't know. It's so hard to say. I think we are progressing, but I think that the creeps are learning to lie better and to distort and overthrow better than we are currently doing on the left.
Gotcha. Look, I'll make this my last question for you. I really wish I could be at the show, actually, but I'm a muso, so I've got to play the same night, 9th of December in Brisbane. But is it? I mean, we've already spoken about Australia in general, but in terms of these shows, is this a trip that's a bit of a, are you all of you ladies really looking forward to this one? Is this a bit special?
Well, it is, because Australia has always been so supportive of L7, and they love Bricks Are Heavy, and so we're really happy to perform this for them. And we haven't been down there in a while, and it's always a blast to go down there. So we're very much looking forward to it. I think it's going to be a really fun show. We did this show in the US, the Bricks Are Heavy tour, and it went over really well. And it was a very joyous occasion. So I think people are really going to, hopefully they're really going to enjoy themselves, because I know we are going to be trying to enjoy ourselves, which is which is going to be the case.
Fantastic. Well, it's been lovely to finally talk to you. Thank you for making the music that you've made, and God bless. And I hope this trip is worthwhile and enjoyable as it certainly sounds anticipated as it is.
Great. And thank you so much for asking me guitar questions. Thank
I know,
you.
it surprises me. I just don't know. I think and I've spoken about this quite a bit with a lot of artists and musicians over the years, but there's a lot of part-timers doing this these days. And I mean, it's always sort of been the case, but they're just not invested because they don't have the history. They didn't listen to Bricks Are Heavy and say 1993. And they don't have that long history with it all, and they're not curious. The key word here is they're just not curious about how you come up with what you came up with.
Yeah, that's true. And right. There's there's part-timers, but there are also complete enthusiasts. So that's the trade-off, right? It's like, like we spoke earlier, like the people who want to talk to me, and it's not just an assignment. It's like their assignment. They assign themselves. They want to talk to me about L7, and that's really great. So, and thank you for appreciating my guitar tone.
There you go. I hope more people pick up on it when this conversation gets out there and they're inspired. I hope there's a patch or an application out there somewhere where people can. Someone out there will have done it. They will have got the pure essence of your guitar tone and would have made it available.
That's amazing.
Put it into a pedal for us.
That would be great. Yeah.
No, really, there needs to be a Donita Sparks pedal. Just plug it in, away you go. There it is.
I love it. Let's work on that together.
I'll put the word out. There you go.
Put it out to the world. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah. Well, it's been lovely. Thank you so much again.
Yes, thank you very much. And sorry you can't see the show, but I'm sure you'll be able to watch some sort of streaming bootleg of it the next day online. So enjoy.
Yeah, and you'll just have to come down again. So there you go. You'll have to do two trips later on.
Perfect.
No worries.
Perfect. Okay, thank you so much.
Thanks very much too. Okay, cheers.
Okay, take it easy. Bye-bye.
Bye. Rightio, there you go. A chat with the great Donita Sparks from L7. One of those conversations I had to go right back to my teenage years, because they were one of the first bands that I had an awareness of and got into. Still enjoy Bricks Are Heavy and Hungry for Stink. All right. If you like that chat, there are many more just like it over at scarsandguitars.com. And whilst you're there, check out my book. Click on the link in the banner and you'll be taken to a marketplace of your choice. Download the e-version or even order the physical copy, as so many of you like to do. There's some more information to share with you about the book in the moment, but before we get to that, I'm going to bid you a fond farewell. My name is Andrew Mackay-Smith and I'm the host of the Scars and Guitars podcast. Until next time, it's a very goodbye for now.
This is Eric Rattan of Cannibal Corpse. You are listening to the Scars and Guitars podcast with Andrew Mackay-Smith.
I've been the host of the Scars and Guitars podcast since 2017. The first musician I interviewed for the show was David Vincent from Morbid Angel, and things have just snowballed from there. In all, I've posted almost 650 podcast episodes featuring conversations with many of the leading lights of rock, heavy metal, and beyond. It just got to a point where I thought, I need to write a book about all this, so that's exactly what I did. In Scars and Guitars Volume 1, you'll read a heap of deep reveals and commentary, such as Des Fafara talking about Cold Chamber and why the band will never return.
If you're a band just starting out, you need to hear me. Do not start a band with partners. Ever.
Yeah, wise words there. Sage advice, mate, for anybody.
Don't ever, because I can't go do Cold Chamber right now unless I get others involved.
Phil Anselmo talks about the episode in his career which gives him the greatest sense of accomplishment.
I think the staying power of the fans and the staying power of the songs, whether it's Pantera, Down, or Superjoint, the fans remember the songs.
Alex Skolnick from Testament confirms that, yes, playing the guitar in Ozzy's band is anything but an ordinary gig. Will Silenos from Dimmu Borgir write a book? Pa from Sabaton gives advice to people who want to start a band.
Look at the team around you, look at the bandmates. If the guys want to be on the stage, then it's all cool. If the guys want to be backstage, then it's not going to be cool.
Current and former members of Cradle of Filth discuss the band's seminal 90s material. Read about the reaction to George Lynch and Mark from Suicide Silence's comments when they throw shade at then President Donald Trump.
We have this idiotic monster, this egotistical, self-aggrandizing, complete piece of shit in there. I just can't understand how we've gotten to this place.
And yeah, we kicked a hornet's nest with Sepultura. Percussive overlord Gene Hoglan talks about recording with Chuck Schuldiner.
Chuck was always, he was very open-minded, and he was into having his musicians that were playing with him just reach out for the best stuff that they had.
Phil Campbell from Motorhead discusses what it takes to get sober. John Five answers his critics who dismiss his tenure with Marilyn Manson.
My name is John Five, and Manson gave me that name, and I had some of the best years of my life in that band and learned a lot.
And we get the lowdown on Treyarch Zagtoth from those who would know, including his mother. All across Scars and Guitars Volume 1, there are moments of tension, relief, tragedy, exhilaration, and throughout it all, you'll obtain insight that I believe no one else has managed to obtain from many of your favourite artists. So treat yourself. Scars and Guitars Volume 1 is currently available as an ebook with a print edition on the horizon. Follow the links attached and download a sample. I'm sure you'll be compelled to read the whole book.